Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here now for another weekly installment of the Flower Cup F2 action. Tonight, we are here for the Netherlands for the Dutch GP, and we have the usual exciting format ahead of us. I am your host, Greg Jennings, joining the action as always. However, I am missing my fellow commentator Checo tonight, so I'll just be flying solo. Unfortunately, Checo could not make it, but we will be commentating in his honor and looking to enjoy this race we have this evening. I am not sure 100%. There we go. Looks like my stream has finally popped up. I wasn't sure there if it was working, but it looks like we are now live. So I will quickly get that linked up here. But yeah, we are here for another installment, like we mentioned, of the Flower Cup. This is the Netherlands Zandvoort circuit, a very, very exciting circuit that we did see a very incredible IRL F1 race at earlier this year, with some huge rain clouds kind of coming in quickly and really changing the scope of that race entirely, bringing out a red flag, I believe, and I want to estimate around 5 to 10 minutes or something like that, if I remember correctly. But we should be seeing some similar weather tonight. This game does do some pretty crazy stuff at this track. I think the real life track is just our area, I should say, is just a little bit unpredictable with the weather. Obviously, it is next to the ocean. You can actually see the ocean from the track. It's just a stone throws away, and sometimes those big storm cells can just easily form and come quickly. And also, the sun can be very strong here as well. So whatever moisture is there can be melted away very quickly as well. But anyway, we do have the next round in front of us. I'm looking at the standings now. This is going to be round three. And so far, we have Zavgab pretty much putting on a dominant display. Nothing really getting in his way that's too difficult in terms of competition, with 64 points in the lead in the first place in the Drivers' Championship. But behind him, his challenger will be Hazy Ozzy so far. He's at 47 points, so he's got a bit of a gap to close, but it's not insurmountable. It's still very early. Mistakes can happen. Things, unexpected can occur in front of you, and sometimes someone can be out and things can change drastically. So keep an eye on Hazy Ozzy, what excuse me, what he can do. And then behind him in P3 is Sweet Tige with 34 points. So kind of a little bit smaller gap, but a similar kind of gap to from P1 and 2 there as well to 2 and 3. With only 2 races, though, it does make it a little bit harder for those gaps to really emerge and for people to really stand out and solidify their positions. So we'll see what happens tonight. In terms of our driver lineup, we have our usual drivers, with Toxic coming in again after his pretty strong performance last week in Monaco, which was his F2 debut. He did very well in the sprint race. Some unfortunate things happened in the feature race for him. I believe he tried to get a safety car to really benefit his strategy, but it just did not happen the way he wanted it to. But he did pretty good. So we'll see him tonight again. Hazy, as mentioned, leader Dastardly Rasta. Zav is here, of course. Bella, a new player here, another one. Let's see how he does in the F2 cars. I heard he did pretty well in the F1 event we had the other day. Zakario, Hemi, Solrak, Zudi, JJ, and Fly with Stefan. An interesting addition. A very, very clean, very respectful driver, and one who is very talented. Have not seen him in the F2 trim yet, so we'll see how he does. But we are now counting down to get our usual format underway. So, of course, the one-shot qualifying is upon us. I'm going to go ahead and pick Rami as my pole sitter tonight. I'm going to hope for a little bit of an upset to take Zav away from his streak here. But I think Rami or Zav are going to be your contenders for this pole. All it takes is one mistake, though. It's just one lap, higher pressure moment. So things could change. Laps could be deleted by going over the track limits. We will see. But immediately, we have the one-shot qualifying beginning any second now. I'm curious to see. Yeah, okay, it is sunny for now. And we will get right into the action as soon as the drivers get their setups chosen. They will all do a lap simultaneously at the same time, which is a little bit hard to follow and estimate sometimes. I think sometimes the game does misrepresent the gaps, between the cars, so it does get a little difficult, but generally, if someone has a decent gap, you'll see them kind of stay in the same spot. Anyway, we are loading in now with the timer coming in. And like I mentioned, a lot of pressure on this lap. This is a very technical circuit, lots of turns that are particularly high speed in nature, and these F2 cars will struggle, and some drivers who have not practiced as much, who have not gotten used to the cars as much around here, will find it difficult, especially if they have not found a unique F2 oriented setup. If it's just an F1 setup, the tires may struggle, the suspension may not be optimized. There is some differences, so we'll see what happens here. Hoping for some new faces to be up there. Let's ride on board with Rami, as mentioned. Here we go. Put that away. There we go. And into turn 1. Now we head into the slightly banked turn 1, kind of a low to mid-speed corner. Some overtakes are possible through there, but it's not always very easy. Hazy is in your provisional pole spot right now, and Rami is right in the mix with the usual suspects, kind of at the 2 and 3 range. Right behind Hazy as they head through the incredibly banked turn 3, now through the winding snaking section, which is still flat out, but it's just a little bit more cumbersome in these cars. Now through the very, very mighty turn 7, you want to really hold your line here and not get caught out, not get your lap deleted. Looks like Rami is doing well to now battle back and challenge for that pole position. Looks like he's got this lap hooked up as he heads now into the second sector. With the long left-hander in front of him now, he's going to open the DRS, not get on the curb as much, and he has got this pole position so far. Let's see if he can finish this off. Into the chicane now of, I believe it's turn 11 and 12. Does maintain a good minimum speed through there. On the curb, that might hurt his momentum, but I think he has enough gap. And now through the very long final 2 turns into the new banking section, which of course is flat out. With the DRS open, Rami has got this lap together, and he has taken pole position here at the round 3 Netherlands F2 Flower Cup event, with Zavgab a 10th and a little bit behind him. Hazy as well, very close to Zav in P3. And who was behind them, I wonder? I saw Toxic was disqualified, so that will be a very hard race for Toxic tonight. He will be at the back of the grid in both races, no matter what he does in the first one. Very unfortunate for him. But anyway, we have the newcomer Bella in P4. Solid job with a bit of a gap there, with 7 tenths separating him and the leader. Isasko doing well in P5. Hemi just behind Isasko, so Hemi is looking to actually qualify here and not start at the back like he usually does. Dastardly doing very, very well, starting right behind Hemi. And Rasta is, look at that, look how close Rasta and Dastardly were there. Wow, that is a remarkable gap. Rasta's going to be in P8, JJ in P9, and Stefan will be in P10, which will be pole position for this sprint race. So that'll be interesting. We'll see who can make the moves through the field. Let's see if Rami in particular can claw back some points from Zav, with Sweet Tea's Duty, Zakario leader, another one, Solrak, Cherry, and Toxic rounding out the grid. Toxic, as mentioned, did disqualify there. Perhaps a track limit violation was the culprit, so he's going to have a tough event in front of him. And we'll see what weather we have in front of us. We do have a dry track, it looks like, for now. And I have been informed that we're going to be seeing the soft and hard tires as the tires of choice for the event tonight. So we'll see how the drivers navigate through both the races. Obviously, you do have to keep both of them in mind. You can't burn them all out in one race, because you will have used tires for the second one, which will not be good at all considering it is longer. So you do have to keep that in mind. I personally would go for the hards, but then again, I'm just not sure exactly how long the softs could last. They could last longer than expected. In that case, I would pick the softs for sure. But you want to avoid a pit stop around here, unless there's a safety car which can allow you to do that. The overtakes can be hard to get done sometimes. But now we should see the drivers choosing their strategies. And with the 5 red lights upon us, we are getting ready for round 3 of the Netherlands Flower Cup action. We have Stefan in the pole position with JJ right behind him as the cars now navigate. We already have a car around there. That was Rasta immediately getting caught up with Dastardly. That is unfortunate, but Dastard is now into P3. And looks like someone else is way back there. Solrak had a rough start. We have 3 wide moment there with huge carnage, resulting in, who is that? Hazy and Isasko falling positions. Oh my goodness, that was a massive moment, and the yellow flags are out. The cars are going slowly. Who survived that moment? That was very close for Zav and Rami there. I think they did get through unscathed. They did make up some spots as well. The virtual safety car is out. Okay, that is why the drivers are going slow. Let me get the track map on. So the virtual safety car is just going to restrict the driver's speed, but not allow them to really get any advantage over the other. I don't think anyone will pit right now. Let's get the tires quickly figured out while we're waiting here. The majority of the field going on the hards, but interestingly enough, actually, I take that back, it's roughly 50-50, with most of the drivers in the front choosing the softer tire, so looking to take advantage of that track position. We are now, though, underway again with Hemi rocketing up into P2, also looking to put his name in there for this Drivers' Championship, with Fly with Stefan being the highest up runner on the hard tires. Immediately, though, we see some battling already. Solrak and Leader exchanging some positions down at the lower positions here, and Leader gets passed again by Isasko now, who had some great pace, so Isasko is looking to get through. Rasta also gets through, but he makes contact with Isasko there. He's got to be careful. These cars can spin out through this section. But JJ has somehow taken this lead from whoever was there in front. Dastardly is fighting Zavgab now. Oh my goodness, so much action to keep up with. I can't compartmentalize it all. Dastardly is doing well to defend, but he is losing some positions here. He does make contact in the back of Rami, but the two get through relatively unscathed through turn 3 there, with Sweeties really closing up through all that. Stefan is doing well, hanging on the harder tires. Let's see if he can take advantage of that tire wear. He needs some green flag running for sure. As we just mentioned, that the virtual safety car is out again. I think it was Leader getting in contact with Isasko. It mentioned there. I'm not sure what happened there. I did see Leader's car go off in Sector 1, and that has stopped the racing again here, but not the official safety car yet. So Rasta does dive into the pit lane and in last place onto the freshest tires now, but he's not going to have too great of an advantage. He is on the hard tire, but he is way, way back. He's going to have a tough time getting back to the action here. Looks like it's a safety car now, though, so Leader has changed that and allowed the field to bunch up here immediately on lap 2. Perhaps some frustration showing there from Leader. Not sure what happened to him. He was given that penalty. Perhaps that was not warranted, but either way, he has extended this caution period, and now we are waiting for the race to get underway. So will anyone pit here? This is interesting because this safety car will last a few laps, but it's just very risky to do that on this track, though. Not everyone's going to be able to overtake. Dastardly is going to take the advantage and put the fresh tires on, which will put him at the back of the pack. Anyone else joining him? Bella and Toxic will do so, because I believe Toxic was in the back anyway, so why not? And we did see some wing changes as well, so that will also prompt the driver to come in under these circumstances. We did see a minor double stack there, I believe, involving Hazy, which will lose him some time, but obviously the safety car will allow him to get close to the top of the field. We have Hemi still behind JJ. Really no opportunity there to make a move because it was just such a short period of racing. And Zav is in P3 now with some of the pit stops ahead. So he's looking pretty good to get some more points over Rami. But Rami is right behind him, so he can make some moves happen and perhaps gain an advantage back on Zav. But we now await the field to bunch up here. I think it'd be a little bit optimistic to expect the race to get underway on the next lap. Probably won't happen. I would like to, but it probably won't. So I imagine we're going to do this lap and probably one more of safety car running, and then we will get the race underway most likely on lap 5 by the time we cross the line. Let's just check the positions as well while we're waiting, just to see what has happened. So yeah, Rasta had the big moment with Dastardly at the start there. He is the biggest loser so far, 12 positions down. He does have some fresh tires on now, but it's going to be very hard for him to get to the top 8, I believe he needs to get any points. Fly with Stefan had 5 positions down as well, but that's largely due to his tire choice. He is on the harder compound, which may struggle to get fired up here. But if he can get a good, consistent period of green flag running, he can potentially claw that gap back in. Another one doing very well, though, up 8 positions on the hard tire as well. So he's looking for a similar situation as Stefan. We saw Zav and Rami briefly exchanging positions, just some awkwardness into turn 1. But the drivers will do another lap as mentioned. So I think this will be the last one. We do have some cars pretty far back, Solrak namely, being 14 seconds away from P16, Hazy Aussie. And Hazy had a very tough opening moment there. Very tough news for the championship runner-up, and that's very fortunate for Zav as well to further extend his lead. Hazy was involved in a 3-wide moment with Isasko and I'm not sure who else. I want to say it was Dastardly, just judging how many spots he's lost, but I could be wrong. And that really changed the fortune of his race. He won't be locked in that position for the entire event. He will have the feature race to make up for it. But of course, Zav will be right there, and potentially he can get similar points or more points than Hazy. So Hazy's really got to grit his teeth here and see what he can get done. It's a very tall task, but hey, the expectations are very low, so take advantage of that and put on a show for us. I would love to see that. But anyway, let's see what kind of restart Hemi can get on JJ here. JJ is going to be a bit unpredictable, I will say, in the safety car period here. Hopefully the race gets underway, first of all. I think it will. I don't see the lights flashing. Oh, no, I do see it on the safety car, so it hasn't officially been called yet. Solrak's just taken a little bit too long to get to the pack, but the safety car has now been called in at one of the very last moments. So JJ is going to look to get the race underway here on lap 4 onto 5. He will look to get going and hopefully catch Hemi off guard in this banking section. Looks like JJ has accelerated away and Hemi gets a similar reaction time. So he maintains a decent enough gap of 0.6. Zav is right behind Hemi though. Hemi is under pressure here and Zav's going to make a move for sure. Into turn 1, holding the inside line on Hemi. Let's get this information out of the way. I apologize. Hemi, though, carries the speed around the outside to maintain that P2 position and be the car to challenge JJ in P1. And I do think JJ will have a tall task to keep that position. But you never know around this track. It's very hard to get by, especially in these cars. They really do struggle with understeer. And I imagine that would be amplified when they are following one another closely. We have a nice pack up here to keep an eye on. And Sweet Teach has had a solid season so far. He's had races kind of like this where he's been in P4 or 5. He had a couple moments where he was lower down or higher up than that, but he's been pretty consistent and not getting involved in too much carnage. Speaking of carnage, someone is off again. That was Solrak, who loses some time there, and another one also loses some positions. We have cars everywhere. Isasko getting involved in another incident with Dastardly, I believe, again, who is around, I believe, in Sector 2 there. Really losing touch with the field now. Lots of contact here. Toxic fighting Bella and Hazy. It's getting really scrappy, and Hazy has had a very good restart. He's made up a lot of spots into P10. Looks like points might be likely after all. I believe he is on fresher tires as well. Yeah, he is. Okay, they're not much fresher, but they are. So that will be a minor advantage in his favor. And Hemi is now making the move on JJ. Let's get back to that quickly. Looks like it was unsuccessful through turn 1. He does make some contact in the rear of JJ. Very minor, though. Cuts to the inside of the banking of turn 3. Very unorthodox battle here. But JJ just holds the speed, and I'm impressed. He's still in the lead. I thought he was done for there. With Zav not really able to do anything, the car is kind of blocking his way. The track really does get narrow through that first sector there. And JJ is doing a very good job to hold on, and there's no ERS for him to, you know, deploy and use all of and then fall off like a cliff like he normally does. So he's doing very well. I'm very impressed with him. Rami is slightly losing touch from this pack. Perhaps the tire choice is hurting him slightly. And these cautions will, of course, give the soft tire runners more of an advantage to use that pace and not fall as, you know, much of a victim to tire wear. So we'll see if Rami can hang on. But let's see what Hemi does into turn 1 here from Zav's perspective. Let's see if Zav can get involved as well, with the slipstream being a big effect through the banking. The throttle is pinned down. Let's see if Hemi has the run here. Zav certainly does not. I don't think Hemi does either, and JJ will hold on to another lap of the lead here. Lap 7 it is, so we're approaching the halfway point already, with some virtual safety cars interrupting the action so far. But beyond that, we haven't been seeing that many overtakes. We did see another one battling Rasta there through turn 1. Rasta looks to keep the battle going, but ultimately has to give the line up. Will he battle around the outside on the banking of turn 3 and cut back potentially? Looks like not for now. Another one has maintained that position, I believe, for now. And Zav is still right behind Hemi, who is struggling to put JJ under pressure. And Zav looks to make a move there, but obviously the track does close up. It's very awkward some of these apexes are very late, so it's hard to get those moves done up the inside, and he has to back off for now. But let's see if Hemi can have another attempt here. The DRS is now open, so he will have that advantage. I'd be, again, surprised if JJ can maintain the lead into turn 1 here, but he's done very well so far. So let's see what kind of run he can get through the last 2 turns here. Through the banking. Looks like Hemi's going to be very close to him. This is going to be tough for JJ, I feel, to withhold Hemi here. Hemi's got the DRS open, and he is gaining, looking to move to the inside. And I think he's got this move done. He's going to break a little bit later. Hold the inside line as mentioned. Allow JJ to slot behind him, but Zav does try to stay with Hemi, because that's very crucial. I think there will be a pace difference, and he does get that done. So that was very important for Zav to match Hemi there through turn 1, and you will see Rami most likely fall back if he does not fall back already, because he will have JJ in front of him now. But he does have the harder tires, so we'll see that advantage slowly erode as time goes on. Looks like Isasko has left the session, possibly due to some connection issues. He is having a tough race. I have seen his car around a lot, but hopefully he can get back in. It would be a shame to lose him for the evening. But let's see what attack Zav can put on Hemi. So Zav will have the DRS now. I'm unsure how the setups will compare here. Obviously no battery, no ERS assistance for him, so it'll be purely up to his aerodynamic package and his exits he'll get. He is right behind Hemi though, looking really strong. He's got to maintain this kind of positioning through the final 2 turns here. And he does look to have a run here. He's right behind Hemi through the banking now, with Rami getting through JJ as well on that turn. Looks like Hemi's pushing Zav to the inside towards turn 1, but Zav's going to have the overspeed and look to cut back and close that line away from Hemi, who flirted with the grass there, but ultimately did back off. And Zav did move into P1, so we have a nice close battle for the top position here. Who will have the first position into that turn on the final lap, I wonder? That's going to be the most important time, obviously, to be in that position. And Rami has lost the DRS 1 second gap from them, so he'll have to have a very strong lap here, or hope for some battling to get back in this fight. Or, of course, the tires could do him a favor. We do see him slightly gaining time here, so perhaps the tires are now starting to tip in his favor. Isasko has also rejoined, so it looks like he was having some connection issues. Rami might have just snuck into the DRS there. Did he get it? I think I heard the beep, and he did get it, so that was very crucial for him. He now has probably better tires, and he's closing in on his championship rival, and of course Hemi, the 2 premier esportsmen of this F2 Flower Cup League we have so far. Hemi hasn't been around as much, but I'm sure if he was, he'd be right up there. Hemi, though, I think is a little bit too far back for now, but of course, doesn't matter what happens now. I do see some clouds rolling in, though. That could be interesting. That sea could be bringing some nasty weather, of course. Isasko is really struggling to get in his car. That is unfortunate. He's constantly leaving and joining the session. That sucks for him. And what sucks for Hemi is a loss of traction in the rear end. And Rami has rammed into Hemi, and they have both lost huge time to Zav, who again is fortunate, and JJ of all people gets back into P2. Oh, Hemi with a huge loss of traction there, and that really screwed Rami over, who does get by Hemi into P3, but he might have damage from that. That looked to be a hard collision, and the game did not ghost Hemi's car as perhaps it should have. Behind them, nothing much has changed from what I can recall, though. Looks like Black Cherry is sticking close to Sicario and Zudi in their own little pack here for the last kind of points positions. Black Cherry does have Hazy to worry about as well, so oh, actually it's a much bigger train than I imagined, with 6 cars being involved here. We do see, who was that? Hazy, I believe, going on the offensive, attacking Black Cherry now. Is he going to have the inside line into the chicane here? Looks like he does. They do make contact wheel to wheel. Cherry is bumped wide, but ultimately Hazy does have the inside, but ultimately turns to the outside. However, Hazy has the drive to finally slip through. Toxic does make contact with Cherry into the rear end there. And they do both lose time as a result of that, so they will not be putting Hazy under pressure. Hazy has now gotten back into the points. What will Zakario do on Zudi here for P6 into turn 1 with the inside more optimal line? Zudi is going to let him have it, but Zakario does overshoot, so that allows Zudi to battle back. But Zakario should have this move done. He does force Zudi to move over. We have a retirement though. Stefan is out of the race. What happened to Stefan? I'm not sure. Looks like he retired in the pit lane, perhaps not able to complete the race. He is pretty far away from us. Perhaps it's very late for him. So it looks like no caution flags are out. That would have really changed the race, I feel, with potentially some rain on the way here. The clouds have definitely darkened things. And Sweet Tige now is by Rami, who I believe made a mistake there. You don't really see a pass through that section very often, so I think Rami struggled, perhaps got caught on the curb. He might have some damage, as mentioned earlier, from that collision with Hemi, who is still in P3. Zudi is going to be the closest car to keep an eye on. I guess Hazy as well, behind Zakario. I did see the rain come out as well, so let's see how intense this is. I don't think the drivers in the front will pit, but maybe they have no choice. Maybe they know the rain is heavy. Zav takes another lap. I think that was the right decision for now, but of course things can be wrong. Who will be the first one to take the gamble onto the new tires? Hemi barely makes the bank turn there, just flirting with the wall, but ultimately getting through. It'll be Rami, the first one on those tires. I think that makes sense because I think he does have some damage, but look at that, folks. He did get the 5-second penalty for speeding into the pit lane, overshooting that braking zone. Perhaps that's a sign the grip has dropped, and that will ultimately hurt his race, even if he does get some advantages from this wet weather period. Everyone besides Rami and Cherry staying out, though, on the slick tires, with Dastardly with a bit of a gap behind them now, joining them on the intermediates. So I'm going to turn the tire information on just to keep an eye on that. Oh, actually, I forgot about the intermediates. Sorry, it's the wets the tires are on. So again, that really affects things. You know, there's no kind of mid-range for the intermediate tire to be operable. So you kind of have to use the wet tire in that inopportune time and suffer through the pain. We have a safety car here, which has totally screwed over Rami, Cherry, Dastardly, anyone who did pit there, but I guess Dastardly was in the back anyway. I'm unsure why that came out, though. I did see Isasko retire from the session, but his car is... No, that's Solrak. Okay, so I'm unsure what happened to Isasko. Perhaps he did crash out of frustration there, but that would be really unfortunate considering he was trying to get back into the race for so long. So that will allow the drivers in the front to slow down, get this free stop onto the wet tires to finish off this race here. Leader has left the session as well. Hopefully he comes back, but that has allowed these front runners to really gain an advantage. And now it'll be up to them to, of course, see out these top positions. I am impressed with JJ. He is still holding on, but now this safety car will close the field up, so he has a little bit more to lose now. And Zav will, I think, be fortunate that JJ is behind him. JJ is known to be a little bit unpredictable through the safety car periods. Perhaps a gap may open up just big enough for Zav to, you know, get a lead on Hemi when Hemi finally does get by JJ, which I believe he will. And then he'll have enough time, or not enough, Hemi won't have enough time, rather, to close on Zav. So I think Zav has this win in the bag here. The laps are running out for sure. We're on lap 13 now, so the safety car will be going in on this lap, most likely, if I've seen this game before. So hopefully everyone can take advantage, get the tires on, and get bunched up for 2 more laps of action. With no DRS assistance now, for sure. The rain has arrived. You see the track really looking wet there. So we'll see how the grip is. I'm unsure if it's quite at the wet tire threshold yet, because that is the tire that's on. But it's looking like it's getting worse out there. So I think that will affect things. And we'll see who can handle the rain better in these F2 cars. That is a very dangerous combination. Looks like Leader is back as well, so that's good news for us. But we're now gonna hopefully get started on this lap. But that, oh yeah, actually, sorry, I forgot. Yeah, the race director will force the restart here as we see the safety car going in as soon as it possibly can there. So some drivers will not catch up to the field here. Solrak and Rami, notably. Rami having a very tough race tonight so far, but he has another race to catch up. So hopefully he can bounce back. But again, let's see how quickly Zav can get away from JJ here. As mentioned earlier, JJ can get a little bit lost in the safety car. Let's see if he can prove me wrong, though, and put Zav under pressure. And let's see where Zav decides to put the hammer down. Let's keep an eye on Hemi, actually. Let's see how the drivers compare. We see Solrak getting a penalty under the safety car, which is not good, but I think he's trying to push to get back to the field. But doesn't matter what he's going to do. He's going to not really gain any positions, most likely. Will Zav get going here? He's leaving it a little late, and he has now accelerated, and Hemi has matched him. JJ, as mentioned, does get left behind there with a gap emerging. Hemi should be moving to the inside here for turn 1, and he does do that immediately. So that puts the pressure on Zav, of course. He does not get the huge gap that perhaps was possible. We did see Hazy and Zakario battling, and Hazy's doing well to get back up to P6. Zakario does briefly bump him in the back. Adzudi as well is doing a good job into P5. Who else is battling? Anyone through the high-speed section? It'd be crazy to do it in these conditions. Don't think so for now. We'll go back to Hemi and see what he does in P2. He's going to really need to get close to Zav here, and oh, he's really pushing the limits. His rear end almost gave up there, and that allows Zav to crawl away. Oh, and another battle is emerging here. Sweeteej and JJ are fighting now for the last podium spot, with Sweeteej getting by into P3. Very nice work, Tej. Very good. Solrak retires from the session just too far back, and he does leave the session. He probably will be leaving permanently for the event tonight, unfortunately. Zakario, can he mount a challenge on Zudi here? No, not possible. That chicane is very tight. There's some different braking zones being chosen there by several of the drivers ahead as well. We do see a very tight pack here to the latter stages of the points, but ultimately I don't think we'll see much movement. These are tough conditions. Speaking of that, we see Hemi pushing the limits again, brushing the wall of the last turn, but he's just going to be too far back to get this move done on Zav. And Zav should have this sprint win wrapped up as long as he doesn't crash. We do have a battle back here, though, as mentioned. A lot of drivers breaking late. Zudi losing a couple spots there, down to P6. Getting contacted now with Toxic in the rear. And Toxic has a car to his inside. That was Bella, who is now on the sand, or the gravel trap, I should say. Huge action here on the last lap of the sprint race. Bella is losing positions. It is really cracking off here. Will anyone have a move through the high-speed section? Black Cherry does, surprisingly. Toxic, I think, did back off a little bit there. You don't see that very often. That was very risky under normal circumstance, but that looked a little bit easier than normal, I gotta say, for Cherry. And Cherry has a big loss of the rear end there, but he does ultimately maintain his position. Will anyone have a chance to make up a move here into these final couple turns? I don't think so. And speaking of which, we will see Zav maintain this lead, which he kind of inherited out of some lucky carnage unfolding in front of him and a safety car benefiting him as well. But he has played his cards right, he has brought the pace, and he has done enough to take this sprint race victory and the 8 points along with it for round 3 of the Flower Cup, extending his lead over all the other drivers so far, and looking very, very good through the first of the 2 events tonight. So we're now going to move into the feature race immediately after this one. Hemi, as mentioned, 4/10 behind him in the end, put on a very good display, but ultimately just could not get close enough. Perhaps the weather ultimately made it a bit harder for him to challenge Zav. Sweeteej did battle very nicely to P3 over Zakario there. In P4, who had another solid race, nothing to be ashamed of. Zakario's doing very well to kind of get these upper mid-pack positions, sometimes flirting or getting podiums as well. Toxic gets the driver of the day, making up a lot of spots into the points, I believe, or getting close to it anyway, so he did well, but like I said earlier, he's not going to have any advantage going into this last race here of the evening. But here we see the podium. A beautiful sight as always, 3 Canadians on the 3 steps of the podium. Zav is the top step winner of the first event for, I forgot who he races for, Campos, that's right. So we'll see if anyone can mount a challenge in the second event tonight, but he will be close to the front of the field, so it will be up to those top runners to put him under pressure. Hemi will have to do a little bit of overtaking to get back in that fight, but don't count him out. I believe he will get that done. and we'll be seeing him up there as well. So anyway, it was Zaccario, then JJ, who had a pretty solid race all around, held on to P5 in the end, holding on to the lead for a very long time. Zudi in P6. Looks like it was Cherry and Rami who got the last points. Toxic just missing out there in P9. Rasta in P10. Hazy having a tough race in P11. He did, I guess, have a moment there because he was clawing back, but looks like it just didn't come together in the end. Bella had a tough race there, especially at the end. I saw him on the gravel with, I believe it was Toxic in P12. Another one, Dastardly, Solrak, Isasco, Fly with Stefan, and Leader Liebag will round out the finishers for the first event. So we're going to now move to the feature race. And I forgot entirely how the grid started here. Let's take a look at that. So we'll be seeing, who was that? I think it was Rami on pole position. So he have a good chance to make up for that tough first race here. Sorry about that, folks. Just had to take a quick break. But now we're going to quickly move into the feature race. It's hard being out here. It's hard being here without Checo. It's a little bit more talking that has to be done. So Checo missing you for sure. Hopefully we'll be seeing him on the next broadcast. But anyway, excuses aside, I will bite down and get ready to deliver the coverage of the second race of the evening, the feature race, where most of the points will be scored. So it is the more important race, and the qualifying results, of course, do directly carry over. And we will be seeing a pit stop as well. We did see one in the last race due to some weather change, but it will become mandatory for this race no matter if that weather occurs or not. And interestingly enough, we had some issues in Monaco last race with a VSC causing some drivers to pit and not satisfy the tire change requirement. I will speak more on that later potentially as the race looks to get underway here with the 5 red lights now getting ready. We are here for the feature race for Zandvoort round 3, and we are off with Rami getting a good launch there, holding his P1 position over Hazy and Zav right behind him. Anyone having any tough moments? We had a 4-wide moment there with some ghosting happening, of course, and someone came off worse for wear there. It looks like Skeeta Bike has snuck in here, but I'm not sure who that was in that last spot. That was some really close action. Who do we see battling through turn 3 now? Looks like most of the field is doing so, and Hemi has had a good start with Isasco as well, moving up some spots. Rasta, no, again, down to the back of the field, and no wing is on his car. Not sure what happened to him there, but he's going to have to pit, and the virtual safety car is out now. So I did briefly mention that, and it has already come to the surface, so the drivers have to be careful here. Normally under a F1 race, which honestly is what most of the drivers in this situation are going to be doing most of the time, F2 is not as often. Normally under the virtual safety car, tire changes, whatever you do is normal. If you put a soft to medium tire on or vice versa, that will satisfy the requirement to change the tires. However, for whatever reason in F2, you cannot, you need to change the tires additionally to whatever you do in the virtual safety car. So a pit stop under the virtual safety car does not satisfy the rules of changing the tires at least once onto a different type. And we did see that in Monaco, particularly with a group of drivers who were in the right spot to pit under a VSC, who got caught out and expected that to satisfy the requirement, and ultimately they were disqualified. However, that is not a glitch. That is supposed to happen. So let's see if anyone makes that mistake again tonight with the virtual safety car coming out immediately here. Will anyone pit? Of course, the advantage for doing so is now very much less from what it used to be. And looks like the only person to do that is Rasta, so perhaps the field is learning from that situation. And we won't be seeing those DSQs as often tonight, so Rasta's got to be careful to pit additionally again. And of course, it's going to be tough for him because he is far back already, but the race is now underway onto lap 2. The VSC has gone away, the track is clear, and Hazy is now behind Rami. And both of these drivers in the top 2, the former teammates, are looking to have a better second half of the event tonight, after a very, very unfortunate and tough opening race, which saw them collected, I believe, in the same incident or a similar incident through turn 1. So let's see if they can work together, use that old camaraderie, and get away from Zav and Hemi here. If Hemi does do some battling with Zav, that might give him the chance to do so. JJ is putting pressure on Isasco and ultimately getting through the Nigerian into P6. Looks like Isasko might have lagged out because he has left a session there. We saw that happen. Perhaps that's why JJ got through there. So now he will fall down. He looks like he's having a really tough time getting into the session tonight. Unfortunate for him. That does happen more often than not, unfortunately. And Zav has fallen back from Hazy and Rami, so Hazy and Rami have the pace. I suspect, though, there may be a reason for that. Oh, but looks like I was wrong. I was expecting Rami and Hazy to have the soft tires. Looks like it's just Hazy who has them on. And the two drivers will simultaneously do battle in the top two positions, as well as Hemi and Zav through turn 3 into the banking. Zav has the better line for now. Can Hemi hold the speed? Looks like the banking really helps Hemi out there, and the battle will continue through the snaking section. Who will back out first here, I wonder? Looks like Zav will have to do so. He's caught on the curb there on the inside. Very hard to do battle through that section. You need all the track you can get because you want to be going flat out, of course. And Hazy is right behind Rami on the softer, more fast tires. He finally gets that move done. So I think there is a big difference in grip right now. Let's see if he can get away from Rami before Rami can battle back, and that advantage will be reversed. Zav and Hemi have battled and separated themselves from the leaders. So that should allow Hazy to hopefully claw in some points, but he did have some damage dealt to him in the sprint race. So he's perhaps just looking for some damage control just to get to the point where he was at the beginning of the event tonight in this second race here. Do we have any battling going on further back, though? Looks like Cherry and Leader are exchanging P12 with one another through the chicane in Sector 3, with Cherry ultimately getting through there. And Stefan has not returned as well. So a couple ghosted cars are in the field. 3 of them, I think. Isasko, who is constantly having issues. Stefan and Solrak. And Hemi is now battling Zav here again through turn 3. Will we see the same exact situation play out with the drivers now being reversed? Hemi does roll off the brakes to get ahead of Zav and push Zav towards the curb. Zav is half on the grass there. You see the grass flicking up with his front right tire, but he has maintained his line, which ultimately is the better one on the inside into turn 7. And Zav just has some grit there and does not let Hemi push him out of the way. He gets that move back, and he is now into P3. But that battle lost them a lot of time, almost a second, I believe, to Rami and Hazy in front. And Rami's going to do very well here, because look at this. He's got the harder tires on, which will come into play later. And for now, he is getting DRS from Hazy, which will allow him to stick with Hazy and effectively do the same pace as Hazy is doing. So he's getting the benefit of that for sure. And he doesn't want a safety car to stop these proceedings. He wants Hemi and Zav to continue to battle, that gap to grow, and an opportunity to pass Hazy later on when the tire advantage is flipped. Let's see if Hemi will have the speed here to challenge Zav with the DRS. Is it open? Oh yeah, it was there. I didn't hear the beep, but it is open. However, he's just too far back for now to get the move done at the turn 1. With some ghosts doing battle there, Isasko and Stefan. Perhaps Isasko is back. Looks like he just joined again. But I think he's going to have trouble finishing this race tonight. But Zandvoort is really tough to get by, as we all know, so it's been relatively stationary. Let's see how the positions have changed. We see Zakario battling Toxic, as I mentioned that, through turn 3, but Toxic ultimately maintains the momentum on the higher line through the banking there. So Hazy is up 2 spots on that fresh tire. And Toxic did another good job. I forgot he had to start in the back again. That's right. So he's up 8 spots. Wonder what he did to get through all the carnage, I imagine. So he's the biggest gainer so far. And Rasta, of course, having another tough start. Down 10 spots. Who was that? That was Sweet Tej having a huge moment there in Sector 2, I believe. Potentially getting caught on the curb of death, as I call it. On the outside. That turn goes on forever, and if you touch that curb, it just sucks you off the track, and then you're all of a sudden in the gravel. That really sucks for him. He's now down to P15, which is effectively second last on the track, because we do have some drivers who are not here. Looks like Isasko is in his car again, so I scratched that. He's third last, but he's got to do some battle now to get back to where he was. Dashley's having a solid race here in his own little gap in P7. We see Hemi and Zav battling again in turn 1. I'm going to see this every lap, I feel like. We see Hemi on the inside now. looking to again repeat the action we saw last lap. He does slide to the outside, which does block Zav's progress, and Zav will not be able to battle this time through the snaking section. So Hemi does get the move done into P3, which again has further extended the gap between him and Rami in the front and Hazy in front of him, and Rami is still doing very well to hold on to the DRS. So I think Rami's got a great shot to get this win here. He just needs this green flag to remain. That's what's going to ultimately do him in. If this green flag comes out anytime soon, I imagine the next 3, 4, 5 laps, he might be in a bit of trouble. He's just got to hope that no one has a huge moment and cause some big response here. Speaking of which, did I jinx that? Oh my goodness, there's a yellow flag through turn 3 there, with Rasta having a moment, losing some traction, I imagine, but he did get back and running onto the track again, so no response from race control is necessary. And Zav and Hemi will continue to be our focus of the entire event. It's honestly been the two cars who have been battling the hardest, changing positions every other lap. It feels like Zav should have a response here into turn 1. Hopefully they don't lose too much time again, but I think it's gotten to a point now where they might have to forget about the lead and just do some more battle, as we see Zav getting the move done through turn 1 and 2 now, as they head through the very unique turn 3. We do see some positions back here. Toxic and Zudi doing battle as well, with Toxic holding the outside and faster line on Zudi, and getting through to another position, to P8. So very good from Toxic. Isasko is moving through... Oh no, another one has pit. That's what happened there. So we remain relatively stationary. Rami is just about clinging on to the DRS. He's really got to keep that. If he struggles to maintain that, he may fall back to Zav and Hemi. Did he get the DRS there? He might have. Yes, he did. The button did beep there. And now looks like Hemi has had a moment and he has lost touch with Zav, and now he's battling Bella. I wonder what happened there through Sector 2. It's usually not a spot you see much battles, but he's now looking to get back up to Zav. So he did lose, I think it was 2 spots there, or perhaps it was just 1, I forgot. But now he's going to have to really fight 2.9 seconds, a clear road ahead of him, to get back with Zavgab. So Zav does have the breather now. Let's see if he can claw into the leaders in front. Looks like Rami just did enough to hold on to DRS for another lap. So that puts him in a very strong position to further increase that position on Zav. And I think it's going to start to get to the point now where Hazy will lose some grip and Rami will be in the better position on these harder, more durable tires. So the position swapping of Zav and Hemi has been interrupted, so what else will we find here to sink our teeth into? Hasn't been the most action-packed race tonight, of course. The circuit does cause that to happen sometimes, but I feel there might be some excitement in store for us yet. We see Toxic now closing behind Dastard, who is having a solid race, but Toxic is doing very, very well to claw through the field here. I imagine he's going to be moving into P7 momentarily, perhaps into the next braking zone. After this one, we see Dastardly going a little bit deep there, allowing Toxic the more optimal line, and that ultimately allows Toxic to get through unscathed and open the DRS flap, so he's going to have this move done, no problem whatsoever. Can Dastard maintain the gap and perhaps respawn into turn 1? We will see, but I think Toxic is getting away here and opening up that gap. And finally, we do see Rami putting the offensive maneuver on Hazy, battling on the inside, with Hazy ultimately defending the position. So they're not quite as cooperative as perhaps they were last season. And I think they have an opportunity to do a little bit of battle here. Of course, Hazy doesn't want Rami to get ahead of him and potentially get away. He wants Rami to be behind him so that he can maintain his pace and minimize the potential advantage Rami will have later on the fresher tires, because he definitely has more grip now. He's putting Hazy under a lot of pressure after initially struggling to be with him, and I think through lap 8 and 9 there you really saw the tires really change in terms of tire life. So we'll see if Rami can again put another attack here on Hazy into turn 1. He's not going to do so now. It's very hard to do so into this chicane. Usually if you try a move, it's going to be very difficult. There's a big sausage curb on the inside and a gravel trap on the outside to greet you. But let's see if he can make a move here into turn 1. Getting a good run first of all through this final corner. The DRS is open. The throttle is pinned. Will he have enough momentum and speed here to get by Hazy? Looks like it won't matter because Hazy is going to pit, and Rami does pit right behind him. Very interesting from Rami. Perhaps he's expecting some good tire life in this second stint, and he's going to have the faster tires, of course. So Zav does stay out, along with Hemi, who does as well, who is still battling Bella. Hemi and Bella have not been able to separate from one another, and that will not help Hemi's progress catching up to Zav. Looks like Hemi has lost time to Zav with 5.4 seconds now separating him out. It was 3.9 the last time I checked, I believe, so he is losing time. And I think he's looking now for a safety car, potentially, to put him and Zav and Bella, all these guys who are still out, in front of those who have elected to take the undercut, which is always a gamble. We see Hazy getting involved with some contact there with Zudi, and that has really separated him and Rami, so that's not good for Hazy's race there. And perhaps this was just a little bit too early. You want this undercut to, you know, be effective and utilize the higher speed of the new tires. But there's a lot of traffic in Rami and Hazy's way here, and it's not letting them go as fast as they want to do. So they want to go. Of course, they'll get the moves done, but it's going to take some time away from them that they otherwise would have had. We see Rami now breezing by Sicario, I'm sure. And Hazy is still stuck behind Zudi, so I think Hazy's chance of winning this race has drastically reduced if it remains in green flag here. He's now going to have the harder tires on, which will eventually come back to him, but potentially by then Rami may be long gone. He has now pulled in, I believe, a multiple second gap between him and Hazy. And looks like Hemi and Zav have still stayed out, so they are looking to have a tire advantage for later, and also potentially look for a safety car to allow them to pit and not lose as much positions. But already they're in a position now where if they pit, I believe even under the virtual safety car, they may fall behind Rami, who has pit already. With fresher tires, of course, but Rami is really doing well here to cut through the traffic. Toxic, though, again, we saw in Monaco, I'm sure will not do him any favors, and he will look to make Rami lose as much time as possible. And you see that Toxic just planting his car in the middle of the track, not allowing Rami anywhere to go. Will Rami have the grip to dive to the inside here? He might, because his car is already on the inside as they head towards the turn-in point and the apex, and there's not much Toxic can do in that situation to battle back there. Rami has now completed the move into P5, with a pit stop being completed, of course, giving him the much better, fresher tires. And he's looking really good to have a strong response from a very shaky, tough first race. So that's very good for the championship. Hopefully he can get closer to the front runners and throw his hat into the ring. It looks like the gaps have now opened up, so Zav is in the pit lane now from the lead position. Of course, he was not in the lead though when everyone was on the track, so he will lose some spots here to Rami and probably Hazy, most likely. Oh, I scratched that. Hazy's had a difficulty. He's lost huge spots and momentum here. He's in P14, so Hazy's kind of out of the picture. So it's really between Zav and Rami now for this win. And I think Zav might be looking for a safety car to potentially bunch him up towards Rami, because he now has fresher tires by a couple laps. That'll be a big deal. Those tires do degrade pretty quickly, especially those soft tires. And we do see Toxic coming out of the pit here. Will he get by Sicario? Looks like no. Sicario does have the momentum to get through, and Toxic is just outside of the points once again, with Sicario, I believe, pulling off a pretty good undercut there. Hazy is really struggling in this race. I'm not sure what happened to him. He was probably caught up in some contact with a slower car who had some more worn tires in front of him. But he's now out of it in P13. And Hemi is still remaining out, so I think he's really hoping for a safety car to come. But the gaps are opening up here, so the chances of that are less and less likely as we get close to the end. Toxic is very close to Sicario. These two are the closest cars on track for now. Will Toxic have the momentum to do a move into the next turn here, the next chicane looks like for now? And Hemi has also got a 3-second penalty. I'm unsure how, considering he was pitting. Perhaps he cut the pit lane line there, and that gave him a 3-second penalty, so that will not help his progress. He might lose a spot because of that, but he might also have the ability to get away. Let's see how he filters out in comparison to Zav. Zav will be ahead of him for sure. There was a gap there already. And looks like Leader has got ahead of Hemi. Has Leader pit yet, I wonder? Oh, I think he did on the first lap, if my math is correct. Perhaps not, actually. Maybe not. If he did, he can go to the end, but his tires will be struggling anyway. So I think he still has to pit. Will he allow Hemi to get by easily here? This will be very important for Hemi to get quickly through Leader. And we did see Zav get through Zudi there, but he really put it all on the line. He got all out of sorts on the very high speed section there in Sector 2, but he did just get through to get by Zudi there. Wow, that was very close. I'm sure he was very nervous through that moment. But Rami now has really opened the gap up, and he's looking to take this win comfortably as long as the safety cars don't come out and give someone else a chance to put him under pressure. I think he's got this. And we'll see if Zudi will pit on this lap. I think he will lose a lot of spots here. He stayed out quite a bit longer than the people he was racing. I think that was Toxic, Sicario, Cherry, I want to say, if I remember correctly. He should be pitting now. Or just, look to sell out for the safety car. Looks like he's selling out. Did he pit already? I'm losing track of that by the minute here. No, he did not, I don't think. So he needs a safety car to come out now. He's going to be very far back, and he's going to be out of the points most likely if he does pit under green flag. Hemi, speaking of which, is now into P4. And he's going to look to get by Zudi very quickly, I imagine. We do see some positions being changed, just primarily due to pit stops down here. With Toxic now into P7 behind Sicario, so there was some cars who did not pit in front of them. So Toxic is doing well to get back into some decent points. And I think realistically for him, P6 might be the ceiling, because beyond that is a 3-second gap to Vela, who's had pretty consistent and strong pace throughout the evening tonight. So that might be what Toxic is looking for. One more check of the positions just to see how this event has unfolded. Again, Toxic, as mentioned, has done very well, but look at him. He's gone off the track as I jinx him through the high-speed section through turn what is that, turn 9, I want to say. I could be wrong. And he has lost 2 spots there, so now that has drastically changed his outlook of this race. He still had a good race overall, but it could have been so much more. He could have been 3 positions higher than where he is now. But he's now going to have to battle back against Hazy and Cherry, and Hazy has done well to get in the points, but of course, nowhere near the lofty P2 he was running in earlier. And Hemi now is close to Zudi on track, and Zudi has pit. So yeah, I think Zudi's really going to hurt here and lose a lot of spots. We see a lot of cars going through the banking here. And particularly, he was battling Toxic, I remember, so let's see how much time he did lose. We already see Toxic going by, so that looks to not have played out in Zudi's favor there. And Zudi is now out of the points into P12 behind Dastardly. Wow. So yeah, he stayed out way too long there. He really hinged his race on the safety car, and ultimately it just didn't come. So that is unfortunate for him. We have a nice little battle here between Toxic and more so Cherry and Hazy for P6. You really see some big gaps in the top 3 there, so I think that action has fizzled out for the most part. I think those positions will remain. I don't think Bella will be able to get within 3 seconds of Hemi, who does have the penalty, and he is the only driver to have a penalty over his head right now. So that's actually very interesting, very different from the races we've seen. No one will lose any spots due to time penalties, potentially, besides Hemi. So we will see how the last quarter of this race finishes off. It's already flown by. We're on lap 16. With only 4 or 5 laps, I guess you could say, left in our event tonight. It's been a pretty decent race, not the most action-packed. We did see some rain in the sprint race there, which did really shake some things up. Some very tasty incidents as well. But at the top, things have really cooled down. So we're now going to keep an eye on Black Cherry, who ultimately is just a little bit too far back to get the move down on Hazy. Cycling through the field here. Zudi's going to have very fresh tires, but it's just it's a very hard track to get by. So I feel like this kind of track, you're better off with an undercut. Of course, not being too aggressive and getting stuck behind people, but you generally aren't going to be flying through the field as much as you would in some other tracks. So waiting for those fresh tires might hurt you. Speaking of getting hurt, we saw Sweetige being involved with Leaderly and Isasco there. That was some very clumsy stuff there. I think that was Isasco on the inside hitting Sweetige there, and I'm sure Sweetige won't be happy with that one. And Sweetige has had a pretty tough race. He had a very good sprint race, but ultimately he's been stuck now beyond the point scoring positions. Not where he wants to be for sure. He's had a very solid season so far. He will potentially lose some driver's positions after tonight. We will see how all that shapes out, of course. But for now, Hazy and Cherry are kind of your, or I guess it's Sicario now involved, are kind of your three drivers to keep an eye on. Will Hazy have the overspeed here to turn one? He might marginally have enough. He's going to have to be a little bit later, more brave on the brakes. Oh, Sicario does turn in aggressively, does not accommodate Hazy's line as much as Hazy would like there. And Hazy ultimately has to wait another lap to get that move done. So, of course, people know it's hard to get by here. They will defend very hard and make that very difficult for people to get by. We do see Zudi get by another one and Dastardly there. Dastardly does fight back through turn 3. Two drivers remain side by side through the banking. Oh, the tires got very close together there, but ultimately respect is shown. And, sorry, that was not Dastardly, that was another one. Battling with Zudi there, and Zudi ultimately gets through, who will have the freshest tires. But now he has a big 8-second gap ahead of him. I don't think he's going to be able to claw that in unless someone crashes here. So for now, we're going to, again, just look and see what Hazy and Sicario and Cherry are doing. So let's see how Hazy responds now. Sicario definitely showed him that he would not make this easy for him last lap. He's a lot closer now, though. He might even get the move done early just to really put Sicario off. And Sicario, again, aggressively cuts to the inside, not leaving enough space for Hazy's line there. I think that was a little bit more rough than the first time we saw. And Hazy did lose a chance to gain the position. And now he's under pressure from Cherry, who goes around the outside of turn 1, which is a spot you can really maintain some momentum. But Hazy does have the speed to stay ahead of Cherry there. However, I think Hazy's going to be a little bit frustrated. I think Sicario is just cutting over a little bit too aggressively on him. Particularly that last incident there through the last corner. Hazy's really going to have to get his car firmly along Sicario whenever Sicario turns in order to make sure that his car does not get impacted by some side-to-side impact. So let's see how Hazy plays this one. He's definitely not going to be as polite as he normally is, that's for sure. If I was him, I certainly wouldn't be. The DRS open now, so again, no moves are really realistic into this corner. It's only really a corner for overtaking if it's like the last lap and you just have no other alternative. Otherwise, you're not really going to do very well trying that, but you will be looking to set the turn 1 overtake up through these last 2 turns here. So let's see if Hazy can again get close to Sicario. So now he's very close to him, and this should allow him to get further alongside, potentially ahead into turn 1. What will Sicario do here? Will he squeeze Hazy aggressively? Looks like not for now. Hazy should have the move done here, as long as Sicario gives him the room, and this time he does allow Hazy to get through. Yeah, as mentioned, Hazy just had to get his car more alongside and really not give Sicario an alternative to chop him off like that. And he has now gotten that move done into P5, and that is most likely where he will finish. We are on lap 19 of 20, the penultimate lap here, with a lot of gaps, again, being present for the top positions. So it's kind of an unusual broadcast. We're now shifted to the bottom 5 instead of the top 5. We see JJ putting Toxic now under pressure through turn 7. I think Toxic's tires might be a little bit more worn than JJ. We see JJ really closing up there as they head towards the next right-hander. JJ briefly went for the move on the inside, but he did ultimately back out and lose some time there. And now Rami has taken the flag for the final lap. The white flag is out. So he should be comfortably cruising home to the end. We're not going to watch him do that. This isn't real F1. We have better TV direction than real F1. It's just me sitting here. Humble flex, just kidding. Anyway, JJ is putting Toxic under pressure here. Will he have the momentum into turn 1? I think he will, so Toxic will have to do some defensive maneuvers here. Toxic immediately moving to the inside, which puts JJ very close to the inside wall. Toxic is really squeezing JJ. JJ goes very late on the brakes, but overshoots the corner, almost getting into the sand trap there, or the gravel trap. Toxic and JJ now bumping tires through turn 2. Toxic taking the inside line, which turns JJ's car towards the left, towards the wall, but JJ has maintained the fight, which has ended in tears, and both drivers are around in turn 3, allowing Zudi to sneak through and gain a couple more spots than he otherwise would have. Oh, that was a really argy-bargy battle there. I don't really want to assign blame to anyone. There was equal problematic decision makings by both drivers there. Not going to really blame anyone for that. That was just a very, very hard fought battle. But we do see the top 3 now comfortably getting to the end of the race here. Will anyone have an opportunity to send a move? I don't think so. Everyone's just too spaced out for now. As long as no one crashes. The order as you see it on screen should be your finishing order. So Bella will be the next to take the checkered flag, followed by Hazy, Sicario, Cherry, Zudi doing well to gain a few more spots than I think he could have gotten due to some favorable battling ahead of him into P8. JJ and Toxic really exchanging blows there. I'd love to hear the voice chat right about now. Toxic, you can see the frustration. Look at him just throwing the points away, destroying his car meters before the finishing line, and ultimately giving Dastardly some points. So perhaps some philanthropy occurring here. Dastardly sneaking into P10. And Isasko really having some issues with the network tonight. Unfortunate for him. Leader will finish P12. Rasta, very unfortunate for him. I really did not see much of him. He's just been in the back, constantly recovering the entire event. But he will get better, folks. I assure you of that. He's going to finish in P13. Another one right behind him. Skeeta Bike did sneak into the second race here in P15. And Sweet Tige was involved in some contact there for the final actual driver to cross the line for our event tonight. So that one was pretty good race. Definitely worth our time, definitely worth checking out if you haven't already. Not the most exciting one for sure, but we did see some very good moments there, particularly at the end there with Toxic and JJ really coming to blows. So well done, gentlemen. Fairly clean race beyond some usual Flower Cup fisticuffs, which we come here for anyway. We see Rami responding well, taking the top spot of the first position here for the feature race. Let's see how the entire point sheet looks for the entire weekend, and let's see how he compares to Zav and Hazy particularly. Those 3 will usually be your front runners for that Drivers' Championship. Hemi, of course, is around. I'm just unsure if he can come to this race consistently. So we'll see if Hemi can poke his nose in there and potentially get some points off these guys. Anyway, though, we do see Rami and Zav getting identical points. So Rami did do well to bounce back in the second race, but ultimately that does go in Zav's favor. Zav was in the lead, so he maintains that healthy lead for now. Hemi is going to be the third highest score of 24 points. And then we have Sicario with 13 points behind him, having a pretty consistent race. Bella with 12 points overall. Hazy with 10, having a very tough sprint race as mentioned earlier. Black Cherry is going to get your 8 points. Zudi 7, Sweet Cheese 6. JJ will get 6 points as well. Very unfortunate what happened to him at the end there. Some very, very hard battling with Toxic as well, being involved in that with 1 point. And Dastardly making the most of the event tonight, getting 1 point in the feature race. Awesome to see that. But already, folks, we have gotten to the end of our event tonight. I've really enjoyed this one. In terms of a standout performance, someone who really stands out to me for tonight, I would probably... Ooh, it's actually tough because a lot of people had some up and down moments. It was going to be Toxic until that fisticuffs occurred there, but I think I'm going to stick it with Zav, who ultimately just did enough to maintain his tight stranglehold on this championship lead, and he's looking very good to potentially take this lead through the rest of the season towards the latter stages. So that was round 3 of the Flower Cup action. Looks like the points are already being updated live as I speak. That is really, really cool to see that. Wow, cutting edge stuff. Anyway, the next race will be Hungary, which will be Tuesday, 8 p.m., same time, same place. Like I mentioned, hopefully Checo will join us for that. Definitely did miss him tonight. My vocal cords certainly did as well. But hopefully you have enjoyed the action tonight. I have been your host, Greg Jennings. Please, again, as always, I'll do my usual plug. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Share with your friends, fellow racers. Get more people involved. We'd love to have some more viewers and racers involved in this series. We want to fill that grid up as much as possible. So, of course, if you're interested in taking part of the action, leave a comment or share it with someone who perhaps you might know who is interested in racing with us. It's definitely some high quality F2 action that we have been witnessing here consistently, and we're going to continue to do so. So with that being said, your host, Greg Jennings, is going to sign out tonight for the proceedings from the Netherlands. I'll join you next Tuesday for Hungary, which will be another exciting, very difficult track for the drivers to navigate. That is it for me for now. Have a good night, everyone.